Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of October 26th to November 1st, 2025. Great to be back from basically, spending time with family and everything, but, excuse me, unfortunately, I kind of caught a cold. I'm trying to fight it off and everything like that, so part of me, if you hear me coughing in this video and everything like that, I'm just trying to fight off the cold and excuse me, and everything like that though. But anyway, and also I would like to say happy Halloween to everybody out there, regardless of whether you're going trick-or-treating with either loved ones or kids, or you have any nieces or nephews or anything like that, or handing out candy in general though. So hopefully you guys had a happy and safe Halloween, or going to a party to be exact. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover this week, including Nintendo taking an L in regards to the situation surrounding Palworld and everything. Some interesting information about next generation Xbox and everything like that. Basically, 2 big announcements of games that were announced last week when I was, on vacation and everything like that. That is going to be really interesting to see how this runs on the Switch 2 and all. And basically, the response basically was given after the reveal of Halo Combat Evolved, at least the campaign, coming to multiple systems, basically the PS5 and everything like that. If you're interested where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, as well as the timestamps if there are certain parts you wish to skip to, assuming you're watching this video on either YouTube or Patreon and all. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cent. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details and everything like that, though. The first one has to do with basically has to do with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the director basically weighed in on the whole game keycard controversy, basically for the Switch 2 and all, and believes it's a larger part of the trend that we can't avoid, and some of it has to do with, some of the size of the games and all, and to some degree, some of the argument we've heard from Ubisoft when they ported over Star Wars Outlaw to the Switch 2 in terms of the speed and everything like that. And I will admit, to some degree, he could be right though, that game keycards aren't going away, and I don't think they are though. But at the same time, I also do think that this may be an issue Nintendo may have to address at some point down the road, or the people who are manufacturing these Switch 2 cartridges and everything like that, to figure out how to address those issues while putting the entire game into the cartridge and everything like that though. But I don't entirely disagree that basically that game keycards aren't going to be going away or anything like that. So it is certainly an interesting thing indeed though. We also learned that basically the former president of Blizzard has sort of chimed in on basically comments made by the current Xbox president, Sarah Bond. This has to do with exclusivity and everything like that. And basically making a comment that, or I think one of the higher ups who work on the Xbox system, that exclusives are antiques or something like that. Basically not thinking it as important as they are though. However, the former head of Blizzard thinks differently though, considering looking at Nintendo as an example, how they still have exclusivity and all, and how that continues to do very well for their system and everything like that. So there's been some back and forth over Microsoft's approach to go third party ever since they made that announcement. Some agree with this, some disagree, and also it certainly has been viewed controversial depending on who you're asking this to. Some are okay with this and some are not though. But whatever the case may be though, I don't see this changing course from Microsoft anytime soon and everything. So obviously it is still a controversy. Still, some people are going to be mixed on Microsoft's approach and everything like that. We also learned that Night Dive is going to be bringing over a Switch 1 and Switch 2 port of the excellent System Shock remake and everything like that. On top of that, we are learning that supposedly the full game will be in the Switch 2 cartridge, and I believe the Switch 1 cartridge is as well, which in that case, that sounds neat and everything, Plus, we're also hearing that it might use mouse controls, I think obviously for the Switch 2 and all. And judging by some of the footage that has been shown so far, I definitely liking what I'm seeing right now. I'm going to keep my eye out on this one, indeed, particularly for the Switch 2 and all. And last but not least, we did get like a 10-minute video from Capcom recording Resident Evil Requiem and everything, and that we are learning, they made some interesting announcements like this, looks like a collector's edition or box set that would have Resident Evil 7, Village, and Requiem available. I believe that they're coming to Switch 2. They're unfortunately going to be Switch 2 game key cards. I'm aware people have different views on that one as well. On top of that, we are learning that there is a Switch 2 Pro controller that will be out. And we are also learning over the summer, supposedly, there are plans to do an amiibo based on the character from Resident Evil Requiem, and supposedly some of the skins are coming to Fortnite and everything like that. So, some interesting announcements from this indeed, though. I'm still very curious to see how the Switch 2 version is going to basically do and everything like that. So it's going to be very neat to see how this all plays out for the Switch 2 version. It's definitely one I'm going to be keeping an eye on as well, but I am keeping an eye on the next entry in the Resident Evil series at all. And finally, in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we are learning that supposedly Paramount wants to rename the next Sonic movie, that many believe is going to be Sonic the Hedgehog 4, but move it towards the name of Sonic CD and everything, like based on, the 1993 Sonic CD game based on where that was released on the Sega CD, though. It's going to be interesting to see what the title could be for the next Sonic movie is. We know that supposedly Amy's going to play a part in it, obviously from the end credit scene, and maybe, Metal Sonic, to be exact. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out, though. I'm not sure about calling it Sonic CD. I think most would be obviously going to be called Sonic the Hedgehog 4 and all. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And obviously, we all saw near the end another end credit scene which showed Shadow alive and everything. So it's possible he could play a part in the fourth Sonic movie. So time will tell, to be exact, if they're going to call it that or not, though. I still think they should just call it Sonic the Hedgehog 4, but that's my take on the matter, though. We're also learning that the studio that did the animated or 3D animated or computer animated Sonic Prime on Netflix, though, has now started work on another one based off of Crash Bandicoot and all. So, and that they're going to be bringing it over to Netflix and everything. It will be very interesting to see how that one is handled and all. I did watch all of Sonic Prime on Netflix, though. I didn't think it was that bad or anything like that. I thought it was good, to be exact. I did like the multiverse approach of different Robotniks or different ages of those Robotniks too. I think at one point they had a different version of Tails being sort of the villain in a way. So it'll be very interesting to see what direction they do go with this Crash Bandicoot, and also we know it's going to be coming to Netflix, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out, to be exact, though. We also learned that supposedly there was an original report came out about debuting the Young Avengers, which those who saw the Marvels, the end credit scene showed Miss Marvel sort of establishing a team that would be the Young Avengers and everything. And apparently it was supposedly they would be to fought Kang, and at one point that was going to be, the Avengers Kang Dynasty. Now, we all saw what happened with Kang, to be exact, especially the drama behind the scenes with, Jonathan Majors and some of the legal issues he was dealing with and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see, it's going to be interesting to see what direction to go with it now that we're going with Avengers Doomsday, and of course Secret Wars basically happening, though. So it'll be interesting to see what Marvel does with the Young Avengers and everything, but it would have been very interesting. It would have, at the same time, would have been interesting to see them take on Kang in a certain degree, though. I am a little disappointed with how Kang was handled and all. I thought he did a good job in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, though, but obviously after that, they just sort of ridden him off in the sunset, though. Really unfortunate, at least from my view, to be exact, though. We also learned that basically We also learned that Marvel Studios and Disney Plus is planning to do more of their like grounded, Defenders type TV show, as apparently it seems that they're really pushing forward with, like a lot of the grounded, characters and everything like that. We know that there are plans to bring Jessica Jones into Daredevil Born Again. There's been some talks about the possibility of Luke Cage to Iron Fist and everything like that. So it seems, and of course we're getting that Punisher special as well. So it does seem to indicate at the very least that they're leaning towards the fact that the Defender stuff could be on Disney Plus, while the Avengers stuff, is like in the theaters and everything like that. Still, it doesn't seem like to be a bad idea if that's the approach they are aiming for, though. I will say I did enjoy Daredevil Born Again. It was nice to see that TVMA R-rated thing on Disney Plus. In general, though, I mean, that was certainly really neat as well. Not to mention, plus also seeing Deadpool and Wolverine in theaters and everything. So, very interesting to see how this team-up show is going to play out on Disney Plus and everything like that. So I am going to keep an eye out for this one. Indeed, we also learned that apparently some costumes based on the late Adam West's Batman show to the I Dream Genie and Star Trek costumes have been auctioned off and everything like that. At which I wouldn't be surprised if they're worth a lot of money. I mean, I may have seen an episode here and there of some of these old shows, maybe on Nick at Night at one point or something like that. But still, they are classic shows, but mostly from my parents' generation, some of it from my grandparents' generation, and so forth, though. But nevertheless, though, interesting to see these costumes be auctioned off. And last but not least, we are learning that basically Netflix is exploring the idea of purchasing Warner Brothers, as they supposedly hired a firm or to look at a lot of Warner Brothers stuff. Supposedly this is the same firm that helped Skydance buy Paramount and everything like that. This is interesting indeed, considering that supposedly the CEO came out like a while back or something, or earlier, or sometimes earlier this month, or I think later in September, about no plans of buying WB. But given the fact that Paramount supposedly has made 3 attempts and WB has said no to that one, it does seem to indicate that basically Netflix could be more in the opening to buying WB, though. Now, there has been talks about Amazon and Comcast basically purchasing WB. Time will ultimately tell which one turns out to be the winner, or if they are moving forward with their idea of splitting up certain things, though, which they are planning to do by 2026. So it will remain to be seen how that is going to work and everything like that. But this would be very interesting to see if Netflix buys Warner Brothers and what kind of impact this could have, though. There are some concerns about the possibility that they may end them like doing theater runs or anything like that. But assuming Netflix does buy Warner Brothers, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out and everything. Okay, with the quick my 2 cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the quick my 2 cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Halo combat involved, including the Halo 1, or basically Halo 1 remake at all. Now, Halo 1 obviously is considered a classic game to a lot of folks, particularly for those who are longtime Xbox fans. Most of the people remember when they got the original Xbox, playing Halo for the first time, though, and it was an interesting, taking first-person shooters somewhat to a different direction to a certain degree, where GoldenEye, which was released back in 1997, took first-person shooter into like more of a 3D outing, but also offer a mission-based approach, though, and of course, the multiplayer being remembered for a lot of folks who remember the couch co-op. Halo basically took that to a different direction and also added online play as well, something that wasn't seen, we may have seen in consoles in the past, like maybe X-Band at the time, though, but really taking it to somewhat of a different level to a certain degree and all. And it was also a game that really, I think, put Bungie's name on the map compared to where Bungie is today at this time, with some people mixed with how Destiny 2 is being done, along with Marathon, which is facing some allegations here and there. But in either case, though, the Halo 1 is considered to a lot a classic. The game will then later be re-released in the Halo Master Chief Collection, which was released on the Xbox One, but going through several updates as the game was launched, not at the best of states at the time, though. And so hearing the fact that they are going back, Microsoft is going back to a drawing board with Halo, the remake of the first Halo game, but this time we using Unreal Engine 5, is definitely interesting indeed. What's even more interesting is we know the game is coming not only to the Xbox Series, the Xbox systems as well, but also to the PS5. No word of a Switch 2 version up at this time, but given Microsoft's supposedly claim of them wanting to bring games to the Switch 2, there is a chance we could see Halo 1 Remake make its way over to the Switch 2 and all, though. However, in terms of the response to basically the Halo 1 Remake, it seems as though the response is kind of mixed at best, depending on who you're asking. Some are looking forward to this, seeing that they're trying to bring Halo back and everything like that, after the sort of mixed response that Halo Infinite had, though. Although I did like some of the direction they were going with the campaign and everything, but others certainly were not the case and everything like that. So it's definitely going to be depending on who you ask this to, though. So in one example, there is an article, at least is one person, one of the Halo co-creators, basically weighing in on this, and he wrote this on X, formerly known as Twitter, basically saying, quote, "My honest impression of seeing the new Halo combat evolve is this. I absolutely love where they're going. The game looks and feels geniusly. It's gorgeous in a way we wish we could have built it originally in 2001. It warms my heart to see Halo combat evolve like this." This was posted on October 26, 2025. So it certainly some folks are happy with it. However, it doesn't seem not everyone is basically proud of this and all, and some aren't happy with some of the changes that were made in the game. Indeed, another post from another person lands the trailer sequence where the Walhalla Regals move past obstacles that were placed in the path to prevent players from being able to steamroll the hunters. When you could just smash the crates out of the way, it wrecks the encounter, said this one person. But the worst part, they put trees in landing areas of the woohoo jump lane, and basically sort of weighed in by saying, quote, "What have they done to beloved B3O and all?" The other person would also reply out to other things as well. So it basically, the game certainly has gotten a mixed response to some folks out there indeed. But nevertheless, I am kind of curious to see how Halo Combat Evolved will play this new version, though. Will it modernize some of the controls or anything like that? Are we going to see anything different in terms of, maybe some extra missions and all? There have been some reports about that, indeed. So it will be fascinating to see how Halo Combat Evolved is handled, and it'll be very interesting to see how the Halo fan base and, of course, Xbox fan base response to this indeed. So time's ultimately is going to be tell. The game supposedly will be out next year, and we'll see how it is once the game, especially they drop it onto Game Pass and all. One other thing they point out about Halo Combat Evolved is there's been some reports about them using AI and everything like that. And in the comment made at Gaming Bolt, or in an interview, they did confirm that they are using AI-based tools for development, but they also weighed in, wanting to be very clear about something. This is what they had to say. Quote, "I want to be very clear. People are creative. People make games. AI can improve workflows. It can do things for the game, but I want to be very specific and clear that the people are the ones who are creating the game, and there is an opportunity to improve a workflow or something along these lines. We look at it again. It really should be additive to the creation of a game." They were responding to a question of will we see anything in Halo and Combat Evolved that was made using generative AI. They responded to refer to it as a tool in a toolbox. Excuse me. He points to example like generative full tool offered by Photoshop, which can further make it difficult to distinguish between AI-generated images and things that were made while simply using tools available to the artist. I may go a little off message here, but some of that gets very challenging when we look at how integrated AI is becoming within our tools. We use Photoshop. There's generative fills, for example. The boundary lines can get a little fuzzy. I would say, though, again, to this person's point, it really is about the creative spark that comes from people improving just the overall workflow. Now, for those who are probably familiar, AI has been a very controversial thing. Indeed, there has been talks of like how a lot of these higher ups or billionaires are going all in on AI to replace the workforce and everything like that. So there has been a lot of pushback towards the use of AI and all. And I will say, if what this person is saying is true, assuming it's spot on and everything like that, then I will say I'm not against if AI is being used as sort of like a co-pilot approach, an approach to make it easier for the employee to be able to do their task and job, help with the workflow, help take some of the burden off of them. So I'm not against the use of AI being used like that in a way. But when it is to replace the writers, the artists, and everything like that, just let AI do all the jobs and nothing else and everything like that, that's where I have issues with AI in general, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. It's a very slippery slope with AI. You could say there's sort of a gray area indeed. So hopefully, if what they're saying is true, that they are using the AI appropriately just to help the employee, not outright replace the employee and everything. So overall, very interesting response to the Halo 1 remake that was announced and everything like that. We'll have to wait and see how Xbox fans and Halo fans respond to it when the game comes out, though. And if what they are saying is true in regards of AI in general, then it does sound like they're using it in an appropriate way in terms of helping the employees, not having it just outright develop the game all by its own and everything like that, which is what most which most gamers do have a concern about in general and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with two actually big Nintendo Switch 2 games that were announced that certainly caught some people's attention indeed, and some curiosity about how these games will look on the Switch 2 and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, I want to be talking about a big announcement during when I was out, taking a break with my family and all, that was basically had 2 big Switch games that were announced indeed. That one was rumored and later was officially confirmed, and one that was very interesting that they announced, though, during what was basically called Fallout Day and everything like that. Now, since the Switch 2 was announced, though, there was some interesting to see exactly what games were to be coming to basically the system when it was first revealed earlier this year in January. And then, of course, in April, we had a Direct, though, and there were certainly some games that many were kind of surprised to see make its way over to there. One was obviously Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, and the other one was Cyberpunk 2077 making its way over to the Switch 2. That certainly caught some people's attention. And then, of course, we had Star Wars Outlaw, which at first there were reports about how the game was running poorly, but that kind of got debunked when more footage started to show out, and people were pretty surprised to see how that game looked and ran on the Switch 2, and most folks seemed to be pretty pleased with that. Obviously, there are some who may or may have not liked the direction Star Wars Outlaw was going and everything like that, but still, the consensus was that a lot of people were impressed with how the Switch 2 version, looked and everything like that. Now, the 2 games that I'm mentioning here are Assassin's Creed Shadow and Fallout 4 and all. Assassin's Creed Shadow was a game that was rumored for quite some time, basically to be coming to Nintendo's Switch 2 and everything. So that was, and there were some reports of it on ratings here and there. It was considered the worst kept secret at the time until it was officially revealed on, last week on the 23rd, though. They officially showed the trailer and everything like that. Judging from what was shown on that trailer, though, it looks good. At least so far it looks good, though. So I would have to wait to see more actual footage and everything like that of the game actually running on the Switch 2. But they showed seemed to be all right and everything like that, but I would like to have seen more of that, though. But if the game runs as well as, say, Star Wars Outlaw did on the Switch 2 and all, then it does give me some high hopes for Ubisoft porting some of their games over to the Switch 2, though. Obviously, we learned that the game's going to be a game key card and everything, but I'm not shocked about that. A little disappointed, but not completely shocked about that indeed, though. The other game that was announced that was very interesting to see this make its way over is a Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition being released next year. Their other versions are being released in November of this year, mostly in timing with the upcoming second season of Amazon Prime's videos, Fallout and all. But the fact that this game's coming to the Switch 2 as well is certainly interesting indeed, though. There were rumors at one point that Fallout 4 could have made its way over to Switch 1, but that never really materialized and everything like that. The only Fallout game we had on Switch 1 was Fallout Shelter and all, and some folks were okay with that one, some weren't, to be exact, though. But to get the full Fallout experience is certainly interesting indeed, though. That one, I am kind of curious to see how that one's going to look and run on the Switch 2. Judging by some of the footage that they showed, very small amount though, it seems to run okay, but we will have to see based on, the performance, basically the frames per second on it, in terms of how does it look and everything like that, though. Is it going to use any of the mouse functionality or not? So there's a lot we still have to know about indeed about this one, but I am very curious to see how Fallout 4 is going to run on the Switch 2 and all, and whether or not this will open the door excuse me, to maybe Fallout New Vegas making its way over to the Switch 2, or even the Oblivion remake making its way over excuse me, the Switch 2 and all. So we'll have to wait and see about that one, but it's very interesting that these two games were announced on the same day that they are coming to the Switch 2. Assassin's Creed Shadow coming out, I think, 2 days or day before Metroid Prime 4 Beyond comes out, and Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition coming next year and everything. So I am very curious to see how these games are going to look and run on the Switch 2 and all, though. And if they run pretty well, I think this could open the door of seeing more of these big games make their way over to the Switch 2, courtesy from third-party developers and publishers and everything. So very interesting to see these games announced last week, and I am curious to see how they look and play on the Switch 2 and all. So overall, it was an interesting thing last week when Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition and Assassin's Creed Shadows are making their way over to the Switch 2 and all. And I am, like I said before, I am very, very curious to see how these games look and run on that system and everything. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with supposedly reports about what could we expect for the next generation Xbox and everything. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, I'm going to be taking a look at supposedly Xbox's next-gen system and everything like that. Now, despite them going third-party and everything like that, or at least bringing their games to other systems and all, Microsoft is still at work on basically the Xbox next system. They've come out supposedly numerous times and everything like that, although one could argue their communication hasn't been really that great and everything, and also, but in either case, they are moving forward with their next system. Now, there has been some back and forth of exactly what kind of direction they are going to go with it, though. There have been some reports that it could be a very expensive system, as some like to point to the Xbox ROG Ally X being like over $1,000 for that one. Others are pointing to that, claim that this game, the system could be more powerful than the upcoming PS6 and everything like that. So it certainly, that would be interesting indeed. But there are some more tidbits that seem to come out that does add some interesting value to it, including one that would be really interesting if Microsoft pulls this off, how Sony and Nintendo would respond should they actually pull this off indeed. Now, the article does come from Windows Central and all, but there is a little bit of a breakdown on Pure Xbox over here that basically basically what the system could be, or it's more of a quick summary of it though, okay? According to Pure Xbox, it says, the report says that the next Xbox will essentially be a PC with a full Xbox screen experience, much like the ROG Xbox Ally is, but in home console form. It will apparently feel like a traditional Xbox console out of the box, though users will have the option to stay within an Xbox ecosystem that feels very similar to Series X and S. The option will be there, to open up things and access other storefronts and windows if you so choose. I will say that would be very interesting to see how Microsoft does that if that report is true. And it also will be very interesting to see if this opens the door to any legal issues that could technically emerge to this and all. So again, it's too early to say if that will be the case. I don't want to read too much into it and everything like that, but that would be very interesting if that does happen indeed. Anyway, moving on, it says journalist Jez Corden then goes on to confirm the new system will have fully backwards compatibility with existing Xbox libraries. All of the original Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and current gen games that work on Xbox Series X and S will work natively on Microsoft's next-gen system. Current gen games are set to be boosted on the new hardware via AI-powered technology like auto super resolution and next-gen frame generation, which, if true, I think that's good. I'm glad that they're making it backwards compatibility, though. Hopefully they can really handle the backwards compatibility, see how well they do it for the next gen system. I will say one area I do think Microsoft did a better job in terms of with the Xbox Series X and S is the backwards compatibility. I thought they did a much better job with that one. I will give them credit for them on that part though. But here's the big news that supposedly the claim is that Microsoft is seemingly planning to ditch any sort of paid online play for their next-gen Xbox console. Corgan says, I'm told the current plan for the next Xbox specifically will have no paywall for multiplayer while playing on existing Xbox generations. Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S will likely have to continue paying access online for paid titles. Now, granted, nothing's been confirmed on that at this time, though, and so we'll have to wait and see. But if Microsoft can pull that off, if they can find a way to basically make their next system where you don't have to pay online for multiplayer and all, that would be very interesting to see what kind of reaction Sony and Nintendo does, and whether or not it could force them to ditch maybe having the pay for online and all. Granted, we don't know how this will play out. We'll have to wait and see. It has also not been confirmed at this time, so I don't want to read into it and claim that it's going to be true or anything like that. But if this does turn out to be true, that would be very interesting to see how the other competitors will respond to this, because that could technically entice some people, maybe if they're into multiplayer type games, to consider getting Xbox's next system. Again, we don't know, but it does certainly opens the door to that situation. Further on, it's been reported that supposedly Microsoft still has plans to make their own handheld and all. According to a comment made by Jez Corden, it says, quote, Microsoft's decision to sideline its own Xbox hardware plan and go to the market with the Xbox Ally in partnership with ASUS this year to start gathering feedbacks on the experience that will essentially power its next wave of console hardware. I'm told that Microsoft still plans to make its own Xbox hardware eventually too, along the lines of this new plan. So it doesn't sound like they're completely abandoning it though, but if I'm reading this correctly, it seems that the Xbox ROG Ally, I think X and S, sounds more like it's sort of a testing ground to determine if the handheld experience works and whether or not they should go on into it though. We know supposedly there were reports that Sony is looking to take a step into it again with the PS6 with their handheld as well, although I will say their attempt in handhelds had been mixed at best with PSP and PS Vita and all, although I felt like the PSP fared better than the Vita, to be exact though. Now, obviously, if Microsoft and Sony are going to dip their toes into a new handheld, they're going to have some competition with Nintendo to a certain degree, as they've gone the direction of, the console handheld hybrid concept, with the Switch and Switch 2 and everything. So it will be very interesting to see what approach they take should they decide to do their own handheld, though, and whether they will get the handheld to run natively, which is something I think a lot of us would like to see if Microsoft and Sony are doing these handhelds, to be exact. So time will ultimately tell. Hopefully we'll hear more about the Xbox handhelds and everything like that at some point down the road. But yeah, some very interesting information about the Xbox's next-gen system. It will be very interesting to see if they can pull it off or not, though. I think there were certainly people that were sort of disappointed with how they handled the Xbox Series X and S. I do feel like they did do some things right, but they also got some things wrong as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the next gen plays out and whether some of these rumors or reports that they're saying is true is enough to convince people to spend money onto their Xbox Next system. Not to mention, it's going to be interesting to see how much the system is going to cost, because it's going to be that might be a tough pill to swallow for those who are asking for the system to be $1,000. That could be a very tough pill to swallow for some folks out there. But again, we won't know until they officially reveal the system and officially reveal the price point and everything like that. So overall, I would say obviously these are rumors and should be taken with a grain of salt and everything like that. But it does come from journalist Jed Scorden. He does have a good track record and everything, so I wouldn't outright dismiss what he's completely saying and everything like that. Some of these sounds interesting indeed, though. I am curious about the opening up other storefronts and how Microsoft's going to navigate that. I do feel like this could open up some legal issues possibly, though, but we'll have to wait and see if that turns out to be true. And the no pay online part, that would be interesting if they could pull that off. And if it does pull it off, it will be interesting to see how, like I said, how Nintendo and Sony respond to that and everything. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and that is Nintendo versus Palworld, and in which, basically in this case, Nintendo had to take an L in this situation, which is pretty interesting indeed. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo versus, Palworld, and recently the ongoing lawsuit, and basically the first loss that supposedly Nintendo took with Palworld and all. Now, I will say, I'm not really big or into the whole Pokemon thing and everything like that. I understand it's huge. I understand there's a fan base out there. There are those who like that kind of stuff. And if you're into that kind of stuff, that's fine. I mean, if that's something you enjoy, it's something you enjoy. And I got no issues with that. It's just not something I'm into, indeed and all. But nevertheless, we've seen sort of things in the past that have similarities to Pokemon to a certain degree. I'm not saying 100% copying it, but to some degree, whether it's something like Digimon or even Monster Ranch or Rancher or something like that, though. But in either case, though, Pokemon has been this big juggernaut for Nintendo, nevertheless, though. But at the same time, Nintendo also has a history of being, let's just say, very protective of their IPs. Sometimes I think they're in the right, sometimes I think they could be wrong at times and all. And when Palworld started to enter into the picture and everything like that, I couldn't help but shake the feeling that that I felt like it was only a matter of time before Nintendo, knowing their history, knowing how very protective their IPs, would try to stop Palworld one way or another and all, given how it was. So it didn't surprise me when the lawsuit started to happen and everything. Now, some folks sided with Nintendo, others disagreed, but in either case, though, it wasn't a surprise to a lot of people. But what did kind of surprise me out of this is that apparently, in terms of the first part of this legal battle, though, they seem to have lost, at least you could say, the first round. This has to do with following a patent in Japan that apparently it seems that patent office rejected Nintendo's claim and everything like that. Anyway, in an article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, Nintendo has been dealt a bit of a legal blow in Japan as the patent office has rejected an application relevant to the company's ongoing case against Pocket Pair's Palworld, which they seem to be doing fine, and they are still making other games and everything like that. This patent is related to monster catching a la Pokemon, but not quite the same as the one filed in the US reported back in September 2025. This one appears to be linked to the acting of throwing an aiming object to either capture a creature or initiate a battle. GameFly reported that the patent in question has been rejected as the application lacked an inverted step determined after looking at prior art, with Aulx mentioned as a specific example. The notice of reason for refusal, dated October 22nd, 2025, states, via machine translation, that the claimed invention could have easily been made by a person who has common knowledge in the technical field. Evidence submitted against the application included video of Aulx of a character throwing a pod-like item at the ground and at other creatures, aiming with a blue crosshair, and a list of tools from survival games that can be used in-game, including an arrow that can be used to stun enemy creatures. Other games for comparison are manual tutorials and wiki leaks from Craftopia, Monster Hunter 4, Pokemon Go, and free web browser game called Kane Koi, also known as Katana Collection. While the rejection is non-final, meaning Nintendo can resubmit their application with modification, it also shares a patent with, and it points out the numbers and everything like that, with another one and all, both of which are critical to the main Palworld case. As GameFly's notice, if one member of the patent family is faced with issues, it can often highlight other problems with the rest of the group. Plus, Judge offers respects the decision made by the patent examiner, so we'll have to wait and see Nintendo's response is, though. So this is interesting to see Nintendo kind of take an L on this one, because we've seen them use legal means to go after some of these that they think are infringing on them, whether you agree with them or not. And most of the time they have succeeded in everything. So to see them kind of take an L on this one is very interesting indeed. I don't think Nintendo's going to give up the fight on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they come back again and everything like that. But whether they succeed or not, that's a completely different story and everything. So very interesting indeed for this one, though. So obviously one could argue Palworld won this round, though, and that is the case. But we'll see what Nintendo does eventually down the road, whether they choose to don't bother with this or really continue the fight or everything. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo goes back and tries again or makes some modifications here and there. And it doesn't sound like they are ending their lawsuit against the developers of Palworld anytime soon, although there's always a possibility they could settle it out of court and everything. But in either case, I would say overall, very interested to see Nintendo take a loss on this one, to be exact. I don't think it's the end of the world for Nintendo or the end of the world for Pokemon or anything like that, but you cannot deny this is sort of a setback for them, though. Where they go from here, though, remains to be seen, but I don't think the battle between Nintendo and Palworld is going to be coming to an end anytime soon at all. Okay, this concludes this My Two Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the Halo 1 remake and some of the response to the remake, though? Do you think the criticisms are justifiable by any chance, though? Do you like that they're remaking the first Halo campaign or Halo game in general? Or do you have some concerns, especially since it's using Unreal Engine 5 and not their own engine or anything like that? What are your thoughts about these big announcements like Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition and Assassin's Creed Shadow now being confirmed for the Switch 2 and all? Are you very pleased to see these games come to the Switch 2? Are you curious to see how they look, how they run in any way? Are you willing to pick these games up even though Assassin's Creed Shadow has been confirmed to be a game key card, and while it's yet to be confirmed with Fallout 4, would you pick that game up even if it is on a game key card in any way? What are your thoughts about this next generation Xbox and everything like that? Do you like the idea of opening other storefronts with this next gen Xbox? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you think it's a disaster waiting to happen? Do you think this report about them basically offering online multiplayer for free or free online play, do you think that's a smart move on their part, though? And if they manage to pull it off, do you think it could force Sony and Nintendo to respond to this in any way? And what about the reports of them still plans to make their own handheld? Would you still be interested if they do a handheld in any way? And if so, what kind of things would you like to see for this handheld and all? And finally, what are your thoughts about Nintendo taking an L with a patent office in regards to Palworld and everything like that? Do you think Nintendo deserved this loss in any way? Do you think they'll resubmit to this patent and everything like that? Do you think this could change the course between Nintendo and Palworld, especially with the lawsuit coming around, or you don't think this will have any impact at all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I will appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube and or Patreon. And I will see you again next time until I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day. And of course, happy Halloween as well. Bye.